It. You are recording. Very good. Excellent. We're recording. We're live. Happy Friday, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm gonna hand it over to Ryan, make the introduction, and then Jess, take it away.
Can everyone see the presentation page, the front page? Or
Yes.
no? Yes?
Yep.
Is it full screen? Okay, cool.
All right, guys, welcome to Fitness Friday. Jessica Wood is going to be your coach today. This is part 2 of Fitness Friday, Running Science. She's going to be covering nutrition and injury prevention, as well as a little bit of mobility. Expect about a half an hour of PowerPoint presentation. I think she's going to throw in some exercises as well. Here we go. Here's Coach Jess.
Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to our part 2 of Running Science. Like Ryan said, I'll be going over nutrition, mobility, and injury prevention today. If you have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat throughout, and we'll be happy to answer those for you. Week 1, last week, Ryan did intro to running. He went over anatomy and mechanics, as well as programming. And this week, we are going to talk about maintenance, nutrition, mobility, and injury prevention. And then we have Ryan's was 2 weeks ago. Our third week is going to be on June 4th. Ryan will be back at it with running faster and longer. He'll be talking about Wolff's Law, the need for variety, and also strength training for runners. So stay tuned for that one as well. And they will all be posted on YouTube, our YouTube channel too, if you want to go back and recap anything or if you missed any of the weeks. All right, nutrition for running. So this will be general guidelines. When it comes to nutrition, everyone is different for sure, especially also when it comes to running. And then also with nutrition and running, it's going to be different if you are doing like a shorter run or a shorter time of run versus if you're doing a run longer than 60 minutes or 5 miles. So there's a little bit difference with nutrition when it comes to those two. I have it broken down before, during, and after. So typically, if you're wanting to eat before a run, if you haven't eaten in a while and feeling like you need something to fuel yourself before a run quickly, if it's within 30 minutes, you're going to want quick absorbing carbohydrates. So a couple examples of those are banana, really any type of high glycemic fruit, and then a granola bar is another example for that. If you're going 1 to 2 hours before, you can have a little bit more, like add more complex carbs in, and then you'll want modest amounts of the fiber, proteins, and fats. So you want to be a little heavier on the complex carbohydrates, such as like oatmeal, and then you can add in maybe some nut butter, but you don't want too much because that can affect the digestive system while you're running. So during your run, for this one, like I mentioned, if it's less than 60 minutes, you typically won't need much like nutrients throughout your run, like while you're running, except for water. And then after or over 60 minutes or 5 mile run, you may want to add in some salt tabs or electrolytes, and then also performance gels or chews so that you can provide quick replenishing energy to your muscles so that you will prevent a crash. After our runs, so right after or within 30 to 60 minutes, we want to replenish. As always with water, electrolytes are great. And then also if we want to do like a protein shake with a simple carb, some type of a fruit, banana, something like that to quickly replenish and get into our muscles and rehydrate our bodies. So a couple examples of the electrolyte drinks that would be great, or the mixes are Ultima or Liquid IV. Those will be good to replenish all the electrolytes that we lose while we sweat. And then for a full meal, 2 to 3 hours after, you'll want to do like a full portion of your carbohydrates, your proteins, and your fats and fiber, so that you can repair and restore and be ready for your next run the next day or whenever your next exercise is going to be.
Question?
We have a question?
Yeah. On the previous slide, when you talk about electrolytes and salt tabs, I was thinking that salt tabs and electrolytes are kind of equivalent, more or less. Are they? And why do you recommend the salt tabs during the run, but not after the run?
Yeah, I guess they can be interchangeable. I just mentioned electrolytes too because you want more than just salt. And then I also did mention them for replenishing, both of them after. Yeah.
Okay, so I have these electrolyte tabs. They should be equivalent and kind of good for the after run.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, some more nutrition tips. For runs longer than 60 minutes, it's recommended that you drink 4 to 6 ounces of fluid every 15 to 20 minutes. And then the 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates, or those chews, or some type of quick carbohydrate gel every hour. And then for running, or fueling for our runs, we really want to learn what works best for our bodies. So if you have like a marathon or a longer race coming up, you want to learn prior to that race what's going to work with your body when you're running. So kind of like play around with different things. Some foods may work for you, some foods may not, and it will be best to learn that before the race and the night before. If you wait till the night before and then you might or like the week before, you might not really know and you might feel like sluggish. So learning what foods work best with your body is going to be more beneficial for you. And then also eating to fuel. Leading up to a race or pre-big run, make sure most sources come from healthy complex carbs. There's no need to like overeat or eat as much as possible the night before. We just want to eat a full quality sourced meal so that we're ready to go the next day. And then,
Jess, if I may.
Yes.
I think that you bring up a fantastic point with learning, like, what is it that actually works for everybody's bodies are a little bit different, right? It's not a one size fits all. And I think that number one is, how do I find out, right? I know in my mind, like, that's a question that popped up. And guys, you want to consult with a nutritionist because they'll be able to run some blood tests for you and then actually give you guys some guidance. In Cliff Notes, what I really like is there's a lot of scientific research coming out on the blood group diet. And so what I would recommend, if you're interested in something like that, a good resource would be is to find out your own blood type, right? It's an A positive, B, O. And then there's a lot of research that are coming out on, based on your blood type, what types of food you actually digest. The research says that everyone, based on your blood type, has a different type of stomach acid, and then that breaks down a little bit differently based on who you are and what you've grown up with eating. And so that gives you good guidelines. Take it with a grain of salt, because everyone, again, is a little bit different, but that could be a good resource that you can start researching on your own if that's something you're interested in. Otherwise, definitely consult with a nutritionist that can do some actual testing and science for you of finding out. Cool.
Awesome.
Sorry,
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Okay, on to injury prevention tips. We have a few tips for injury prevention. Number one, we really want to make sure we are wearing proper footwear and shoe inserts. So This can help with absorbing the force that we are creating when we're running, and also say if we have shoe inserts can help with our arches and things like that. And it's just really important to have the proper footwear so that we can run longer and prevent injuries. Also, flexibility is another way for injury prevention. Length is strength. And so when we are wanting to prevent injury prior to our runs, we want to do more dynamic and active warm-ups. And then our post runs, we want to do more of a static stretch and cool down. Weight training is another way to prevent injury. It can help increase our muscle size and strength, and also support and protect the joints and absorb the force so that we are able to run longer and more efficiently. Another tip for injury prevention is to listen to your body. So if you're feeling like you have pain somewhere or that it's telling you to slow down, then listening to that is going to help prevent further injury. Foam rolling before, after, during, whenever you feel sore is great for injury prevention as well, to increase blood flow, loosen up those muscles, and kind of give a self-massage myofascial release around the joints. And variety and versus repetitive strain. So changing up our surfaces instead of just always running straight away on concrete. If we change up our, like go to trail running, maybe do sand running or also concrete running, change that up. Also changing up the distance. So not always running 5 miles every time you go, but maybe adding in some sprints or adding in some intervals. And then the pace as well. So that kind of goes along with the intervals. So switching up the pace, and that'll help you overall be a well-rounded runner. And then last one for injury prevention is proper form. Be careful not to overstride and reach for your distance, but find that good stride that fits with your body. And we want to really stay upright also when we're running as well. All right, and mobility. Mobility is the ability to move well. When we think mobility, we want to think from being mobile all the way from our bottoms, all the way from our feet, all the way up to our neck. So when it comes to feet, before your runs, or what I like to do in the morning is myofascial release with a lacrosse ball on the bottoms of my feet. This will be great to break up any after you do some myofascial release on the bottom of your feet, we'll move up to the ankles. We can do ankle circles, or another great one is the 3-point mobility ankle drill, where you're going to want to drive your knee out towards your pinky toe and then towards the middle of your foot and then towards the inside of your foot. And then you can kind of continue doing that, and that will increase your mobility there. Moving up onto the knees. Knees are more stability. We want to focus on strengthening the muscles and loosening them around the knees as well. Making sure we're very mobile in our hips. So hip circles, the 90-90, leg swings, and scorpion are all great mobility drills for our hips. With our spine, we want to do thoracic mobility. We want to be able to twist. Then we'll move up to our shoulders, adding in some arm circles, things like that will increase mobility in the shoulders and also up into our neck as well. A lot of mobility for running is going to be focused more on the lower body, but also we want full body mobility. And then we have warm up and cool down, which is also great for injury prevention as well as increasing our mobility. So before your run, it's great to foam roll or do that myofascial release. I enjoy doing glute activation with mini bands. So that's a great way to activate the glutes and increase their strength as well. And then moving on to some more dynamic warm-up, hip circles, knee hugs, quad pulls, and then into adductor rack is another way to get into the inside of the thigh. Squat to stand, and then world's greatest stretch with a high lunge and overhead reach are all great warm-up drills that we can do to get ready for our runs. Cool downs. Cool down is also important. Cool down stretches post-run. One of my favorite ones is legs up the wall after I get done with a run, coming home to just lie on the ground, put your legs up and get the blood flowing back up towards your heart. And it's very relaxing. And then V-sit, forward fold, figure 4, half kneeling, quad hip flexor stretch, and pigeon are all great cool down stretches, specifically getting into the hips and the inner thighs, the hamstrings, all that good stuff to stretch after we've just worked them out. All right, do we have any questions in the chat?
Yeah, we had a few about replacements for some of the chews, and Ryan did a good job explaining that dried fruit and honey is a really good option. Some like make it yourself or things that you can create at home, right? So it's not having to be all store-bought. We had a question for any specific tips for folks with weaker knees, like ACL, reconstruction for preventing knee and foot injuries? Jess, you're definitely welcome to address this. In my opinion, stretching and foam rolling, and you guys know that I'm very biased, is a fantastic way to make sure that your muscles are not only strong but long, right? Because we're looking for that length and also strength. And so when you have tight muscles, that can cause more injury in your knees or possibly pain, because your muscles are not going to the length that they're supposed to go as you're pushing and propelling yourself forward. Jess, do you have any other tips?
Nope, I agree with that as well.
Yeah. And I think that Jess brought up a really good point with self-myofascial release, and definitely getting your calves, guys, because your calves play a really important part when you're running, or really anytime you're taking a step. It's your calves that move your ankles. And so making sure that your calves, and there's an S at the end of it, there's 3 of them. You have 2 little ones at the top, and then 1 long one that connects into your Achilles tendon. Make sure that the ball to roll that out is great versus a foam roller for that, because it's a smaller muscle. And so with a smaller ball, you're going to be able to get a little deeper with that. And then releasing tension from that. And sometimes we don't even realize how tight those guys are until we try foam rolling or tennis ball rolling them out. And if they're talking to you, they're telling you that they're really tight. Releasing that will help your knees, and then they'll help your ankles and just better movement, if that makes sense.
Yeah, great point, Z. Calves are definitely important.
Yeah, calves are really important. And then a lot of times we forget about our quads. Our quads are really important too, because you want to think about the big muscles that connect into that specific joint, and then play around a little bit, right? Of what feels good, what doesn't feel so good. And then the area where it tells you, ow, that's the place where it's tight, and you want to spend a little time releasing it.
Very good.
Yeah, good questions, you guys. Awesome. Jess, back to you.
That's all I have for today, guys.
Awesome. Very good.
Let's see.
Jess, do you want to walk, or is there, you guys, based on the exercises that Jess mentioned for and cool downs, any questions on what those are? I'm sure that Jess would be very happy to demo for you.
Yes, if anyone would like a demo, I would be happy to go over them.
I knew you would be.
Any of the mobility ones or the warm up or the cool down, because there's lots.
Cool. We got Alan said, yes, please demo. Any specific ones that you would like?
Any specific ones?
For now, while we're waiting for them to let us know, is there one that the cool down,
Cool down
please?
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. The whole cool down? Do we want to go through the whole cool down?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see me? If I'm back here?
So I still have, as far as your screen, what I have on my end is your presentation.
Oh, okay.
Can
Let
you
me
pin?
stop sharing.
Yeah.
Now
There
are
you
we
Yeah, now we can see you. Thanks, Jess.
Okay, legs up the walls, the first one. So you'll want to lie on your back and just place your legs up on the wall here. And I like to put you can have your arms down by your sides or one hand on your belly, one hand on your chest. And I like to connect with my breath here too, post run. So you can hold your cool down stretches anywhere from, if you are limited with time, 3 full breaths all the way up to 10 breaths if you want a little bit longer. So we want to take deep inhales into our belly and then chest, and then long exhales. So that's legs up the wall. Pretty simple. Then sometimes I'll do V stretch on the wall if I feel like it, but V sit is just here. So opening up the legs. And then we want to hinge forward at the waist, so we don't necessarily want to reach for the ground as far as we can and round the back, but we want more of a flatter back. And then hinging at the waist to really get the hamstrings and the adductors. And even we can get into the calves if we flex our toes up towards our shins. And then you're just folding forward. And again, long exhales and try to go a little bit deeper each stretch with these.
Yeah. And guys, our coach Jess is very flexible, and it's likely that a lot of us, and even myself, on days where I'm really tight, I don't go as far as Jess just did. What does help a lot is if you micro bend your knees. Make sure that your knee joints are not locked out, which then releases the tendon that goes into your knee, and then actually gets the muscles just a little bit longer. And she makes a fantastic point. You have to breathe. And the reason why you have to breathe is because you want proper oxygenation of your tissues that you're lengthening. Because when you do give it a lot of oxygen, that tightness, because that right there is a stressful event for your body, and you want to calm it down. And by giving it oxygen, it goes, I'm okay. And so she's absolutely right. You want to make sure you're breathing.
Thanks, Z.
Yeah.
What's the next one? Also, there's multiple ways to do some of these stretches. So even if I just show one of them, you can do some of them standing as well, up against the wall, lying down too.
Yeah. What would be a good quad stretch? Anything for quads that comes to mind for you, Jess?
I love the quad hip flexor stretch. So you go one knee down, one knee up. And for this one, I always like to tuck the tailbone and then slightly go forward, but we don't want to go like all the way forward, just slightly, and you'll feel a really good stretch already. And if you want to take it up another notch, you can do a big reach up overhead. You'll get all down the side and into the front here.
Yeah. And guys, if you look at her form, can you go back there, Jess? Because you've got great form.
Here.
Yeah. So what she's working on, if you look at her knee is stacked right on top of her front ankle. And then with her hip flexors, because you guys think about it, you sit a lot, right? We all do. And so that hip flexor, yeah, right there. Think about it that everything comes in a pair. They work in synergy. And if I want to get my front long, that means I have to get my back short. So if she squeezes her back glute,
Squeeze the glute, yep.
yes, squeeze it back there, and that automatically, without having to push forward, you get your hip flexors really long. And that's a tricky key to make sure that you guys get into those hip flexors, because they're deep in the hips, and so they're difficult to stretch. Squeezing your back will open your front.
Awesome. Yeah,
I
and this one
agree.
also, you can turn it into an activation or mobility stretch if you do go here, go forward, and then back.
Mhm.
And forward. So this would be just like a more dynamic quad and hip flexor that you can do pre-run.
Yeah. And side note, notice her knee. She at no point locked her knee. Even when she went back, it didn't go whoop, backwards. You always want to keep your knee protected. Don't lock it out. It's not meant to go backwards.
Yes. Another one, figure 4 on there.
Figure, I don't know, but yeah, go for figure 4. Figure 4 is really good for external rotations.
Yes, so figure 4, again, this is one, there's like 3 different ways that pop in my head. You can do it against the wall on your back line like this, or even standing. So you want to cross an ankle over the opposite knee, flex your toes to protect your knees as well, and then you grab behind that knee and pull towards, shin towards chest.
Yeah.
And you should feel a really good stretch in your outer hip here. And then you hold and you breathe. And then you can switch it out.
Mhm.
And then if you want to do that standing, it's like same thing. And you can add a little balance component into the standing one. So I like to sit and fold forward. You can reach for the floor, or you can kind
You're
of hold
very flexible. Oh, yeah.
balance.
People are looking at you like, what is happening here? And guys,
It's just like
QL stretches.
QL, quad lumboris. That's your back, yeah? I want to say the Visa and the figure 4 are both good for that.
Absolutely. They
Also,
both get there. Forward folds, in my opinion,
yeah.
are fantastic.
What about this one, lying supine twist? Would that be good for this one?
I think so.
I think
And
so.
why don't you tell us? Try it out in your body and then see if that's getting the spot that you're feeling, right? Because it might be a little different. But yeah, I agree. And guys, if the different types of the here I come. My computer's dying. The different forms of the figure 4 stretch that Jess just showed, when you're doing it standing, because it's more active, you're working balance before a run would be awesome. Activation, turning all the little muscles on in your ankles to make sure that they're active and holding. And then the one she did on her back would be fantastic for a cool down, right? A little bit more supported, rested, flattening out the spine, and then working through your hips. So yes and a yes, for sure.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. All right.
Any others?
Anything else, guys? Okay. Ryan, thanks so much for running the chat box, and you've put some fantastic tips in there. And guys, good question. Thanks for being so engaged and so willing to learn. This is some good stuff.
Nice job, Jess.
Thanks for
Thanks a
joining,
lot, Z.
everyone.
Great job. Yeah, thanks for coming, guys. See us again in
Thanks
2
for helping
weeks for
out.
part 3.
Yeah.
Yes, part 3, June 4th, I believe.
Yep, June 4th.
Awesome.
Cool. Bye, everyone. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye, Z.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Good job, Jess.
Thanks.
Thanks, coaches.
Our pleasure.